Yes, greetings, everyone. And thank you for joining us once again here on Unity and Solidarity TV for another big and serious conversation. Today is Monday, July 29th, 2024. And of course, I am your host. My name is Bakari Makeru. And of course, we want to thank you for joining us here this evening. Of course, we have a very, very important conversation about to happen. I'm joined by two persons from the St. Martin Museum and who will be speaking to the topic of the St. Martin Museum identity, nation building, and national development. But before we get into the conversation, I want to remind you all about the importance of Mindful Elevation Caribbean. This initiative is a brainchild of Dr. Ramonda Hanza, who is who is who wears so many different hats. She is a mindfulness coach, anger management coach, yoga instructor, an orthopedagogue specializing in behavior modification. Now, Mindful Elevation Caribbean offers invaluable support to youths, adolescents, and families through counseling and workshops in various areas from mindfulness 101, emotional regulation, building self confidence, meditation, relational guidance, and of course, yoga. So you can always reach out to Dr. Hansa via email or through social media. So you can find Mindful Elevation on Facebook, which is at Mindful Elevation Caribbean, all one word, all common letters, and also on Instagram, which is at mindful.elevation.caribbean, all common letters. And while you're at it, don't please remember to like, share, subscribe, and follow Mindful Elevation Caribbean on all the platforms for the latest news, podcasts, and much more. Besides that, in terms of upcoming podcasts, Sunday, August 4th, 2024, at 11 a.m., I will be joined by Mr. Renate Bryson, who is the Secretary General of the Pro Swaliga Foundation. And we will be having a conversation about combating vote selling on St. Martin. As many of you know, August 19th, which is right around the corner, will be the day that the electorate goes to the poll to elect 15 parliamentarians to represent them in parliament. So, family, without further ado, I would like to move into the next agenda point, which is to have this long awaited conversation with regards to the St. Martin Museum and how it relates to identity, nation building, and national development. I am joined by two persons from the foundation, the museum, which is Miss Amaris Richardson and Miss Solange Ludmilla Duncan. So if you would, ladies, be so kind, you can turn on your camera. All right. Welcome, Amaris. Welcome, Solange. It's great to have you all. And thank you for accepting the invitation to be a guest on Unity and Solidarity TV.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
for having me and us, Bakari. Thanks. Happy
All
to
right.
be here.
Excellent. So before we go on, please just briefly introduce yourselves so that the people have an idea. I mean, I know for a fact you need no introduction, but of course we also have some international viewers, who would want to know who they are listening to today. So we'll start off with Amaris, and then we'll go to Solange.
Okay. So my name is Amaris Richardson. I currently work here at the Smart National Heritage Foundation and Museum. That's our national museum here, located in town, Front Street. As we say in the new town, in the Coffee Lounge Alley, but also known as the Spachens Alley. So I've been working here for the past few years. Before that, I spent about my last 9 to 10 years in the Ministry of Romi, and then before that, in and out of government and on Curacao. So I have a background in architecture and civil engineering, but yes, now I'm here at the museum.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. And Solange.
Yeah, so my name is Solange Ludmila Duncan. My nickname is Mila because my mom's name is also Solange.
Okay.
And I am a former member of parliament. So I was a member of parliament from 2020 to 2024. Before that, I was a policy advisor in a number of ministries. First in justice, after 10, I moved back home and I became a policy advisor for justice and the immigration department. Then I moved on to education. And right before entering parliament, I was a policy advisor for TIAT. So I love policy making. I have a master's in development management. And I love to focus on like civic participation and then of course culture. So I think about a year ago maybe Amaris and I connected, and I've been a supporter and a proponent of the museum and its development since then.
Oh, excellent. I will enjoy this conversation today. I'm going to enjoy this one today. No, I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, so just some background information. Tell us a bit more about the St. Martin Museum. When it was established, why it was established, how did it come into existence?
Okay. So that's something actually Mrs. Elsha Boss, she's the former director. So the
Okay.
museum was actually established about 30 years ago. And to make a very long story short, it was some heritage enthusiasts who were trying to save and preserve heritage on St. Martin. So they came together and founded the foundation, which governs the museum. And then the museum was opened. It used to be located in the next to the Pink Palace, Sea Palace, Pink Pearl, I mean, sorry, next to the
Okay.
Sea Palace. And then I think for the past 20 something years, it was moved to here. So then it was here in the alley. So the museum is small and quaint, but it embraces the St. Martin identity and the St. Martin story and exact what we have, and then we're trying to really build on it. So it's not only what we have now, but we're really trying to build on it and grow into it, really embracing and embodying the full St. Martin story and also the story of the region and the diaspora.
Okay. And of course, Mila, if you want, you can weigh in also, because we're just having a conversation, yeah? So you don't really have to wait your turn as such.
Yeah. Thanks. I like it. No, I believe that the core of all that we are, one of those core institutions is the museum. So I'm kind of looking forward to its growth. And I'm excited that Amaris is there as well. 2 years, right, Amaris? 2 years or three? Two.
Yes.
So
So,
only 2 years. So, it's like just the beginning of something to me that is greater to come. So I'm excited to kind of be in a supportive role for the museum.
Okay. And you said, Amaris, you said something very important, that you said the museum is basically a custodian of our story, right?
yes.
Now, we live in a time where we see so much development. Of course, we have globalization. We have the influx of um, persons from the region and around the world, and they are not coming empty-handed, right? And next to that, if I may, to compound our concerns even more, there's always a talk about um, preserving culture, preserving heritage, and so forth. Are we doing a good job at preserving our culture and heritage on St. Martin?
I would love to say that we are trying.
Okay.
And I think persons, individuals, organizations are really trying to the best of their ability. Um, it's a beautiful challenge. It's not the easiest, but I think we are trying, and where we're going with it, I believe it's on
Okay.
a positive route. I definitely would say
Okay.
so. Yeah, it's
All right.
really about not only it's about safeguarding and what we have left, and also bringing it. I don't want to say bringing it back, but enhancing it. You know, enhancing it and putting it more out there, raising the awareness. I would definitely say so. I don't think I think it's a beautiful challenge, but we're pushing.
Okay. Okay. Mila?
I've seen, yeah, I've seen, and Bakari, maybe you can jump in as well. I want to feel like as a society, our consciousness is like gradually elevating, right? So we're seeing that our heritage is being destroyed, and people are really upset about it. They're going on social media, they're demanding, justice. And it's at the center of everything we are. And I think now that we're in 2024 and with everything that is happening, somehow I don't know. I just feel like people understand how important it is now and are willing to fight more for it. And that's why Amaris and I, alongside Mr. Yusadun at the USM, started a St. Martin Archives and Heritage platform, because in this time now, we all have to come together to say, hey, our heritage is not only worth fighting for, but we need to like actively get involved in promoting it. So I feel like it's a special time for us, although some would say, if only we had do what we had to do 40 years ago, Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I tend to agree with you. And I look at it from different dimensions. I love when organizations come out and educate the population about the importance of heritage. And not only that, but to help us to identify markers in the community, sites in the community, so that way persons are more aware and hopefully take that into consideration when they are visiting, developing, or whatever have you. But I do agree that we do see more persons vocalizing their concerns, you see.
Definitely.
But when it comes to the museum, tell us a bit about the artifacts. Tell us why it is important for persons to visit the museum. What can they expect? Let me leave it at that, because I want to give you like 10 questions and then
Okay, so the museum actually starts with the gift shop. So
okay.
of course, we're a nonprofit organization, so there's no entrance fee. So we actually run based on donations. So it's based on donations. You come in, you can give a donation if you like to. But first, I'll start with the gift shop. In the gift shop, we try to promote local art, local entrepreneurship. So we have a lot of like items selling, let's say from Ruby Butte, a lot of our local books from our local authors. We have art from our local painters, and we're trying to expand on that also, hopefully together with Axum to create more of an art space. So that's one of
Okay.
our goals for local artists. And then you have, let's say, Caribbean Vibes, with their, she makes stuff from coconuts, cocoa modes, the Arts and Crafts Foundation. We also have items from them, the dolls. So that's our gift shop. We really try to promote our local entrepreneurs and our local artists. So then you would go up into the museum. We have a showcase of our local heroes, where we display persons who have played important roles on St. Martin and the development of St. Martin. And this is very important, especially when it comes to our school children.
Mm.
Knowing who did what and why it's important, and it ranges from, of course, the Emilia Wilson, to the John Lamine, to the LB Scott, just a brief explanation of who they are and what role they played in the society. We could go to the Edgar Lynch, the Nurse Angel. So we have our wall of that, and that's something we're busy also updating now as well, because of course we have people who have passed in that time since it was last updated. You have your Louis Duzon song, you have your Alfonso Blyden, um, even Teacher Richardson, Dorothy Richardson. So um,
Okay.
yes, so we're in the process of updating that. So this is where we also ask the community to say, okay, you know what? Hey, help us out, help us build on these stories, because it's not just our museum, it's our people's museum. It belongs to St. Martin. And then we go upstairs and then we have exhibit on the indigenous period. That's also something that we're upgrading right now. I don't know if you've heard of the Caribbean Ties exhibit. That's a Caribbean Ties exhibit that was done within the Caribbean region, various museums, but also with CMARC. So we have part of that exhibit will be moving upstairs soon, but just a display of the indigenous period here within the Caribbean, and now, and what we have already is basically here on St. Martin. So where it talks about, just the different ways they lived, and also let's talk about the Moho well stone, the different artifacts that were found, what they did with them, the tools, the dress, and so on. Then we go into the Salt period, and then so we have some information about that, the Salt Pond, going into then the slavery period, information about that, about the plantations. And then we move into what I like to call, your grandmother days, when you see the coal pot and you see the iron with that you needed the coals, and even down to the typewriters, the old ice cream makers, and then we go into the periods, not the periods, but the section then, let's say, of the forts. And then we even have a section with music. We have an amazing collection that was donated by two gentlemen. Our funny man, Mr. Fernando Clark, donated a very lovely series of records. So we're busy working on the record player to get them up and running. So when you come in, you can actually hear that playing. And then another gentleman, he also donated a whole collection of records. So, and then you would have in the back where we have, about our sea life. Let's say some of our wreckages in let's say the proselyte, that's still at the bottom of Great Bay. So those who are excited about diving, they're very excited to see that. So, and then just about our ecology, our fish, our birds, our natural rocks, our natural stones of St. Martin, our hurricanes. Yeah, so that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Okay. And is the museum frequented a lot by locals in particular?
I would say not as much.
Okay.
No,
And what
not
about
where we would like it to be.
yeah,
Well, frequented by schools. So we
by
do get,
schools?
yes, we do get we get a lot of school visits. Yes,
And
definitely.
what has been the reaction, especially of the youngsters, when they come to the museum and they encounter these how should we call it? These items that their grandparents would have used. They see the old pictures, they see our local here. What is their reaction?
It makes me laugh because when they see the typewriters, they were like, "Oh my gosh, that's ancient," and then I feel so bad because I use the typewriter.
Exactly. Exactly.
But overall, you honestly, and to be very frank about it, yes, you do have those in between that do know, but you see how much they do not know.
Okay.
And that's not amazing to see, but that's, it touches you to see that how much. I mean, I have it with my own children. It's how much that has not been passed on to our children, how much has, so they're of course it's a different generation, so they're caught up in these times, but that's how important it is for us to keep our culture and pass it on to the younger ones. So that's really where you see, okay, they come in and they don't know. And we also do play games with them. I don't know if you've heard of Swaligan slangs. So they do
Yes,
a
I have.
job of
Yes.
promoting, the St. Martin talk and, the
Yes.
St. Martin ways of saying things. So they have a great game. And we play this with the students a lot. And it's charades. Sorry, I was looking for that word. Charades.
Okay.
So, and it's really only St. Martin things. So you have St. Martin traditions, St. Martin foods, St. Martin trees, different everything St. Martin, and St. Martin persons. And then when playing these with the students, you see how they, some would know. And I must say, yes, you do have those who don't know, but the majority don't.
Wow.
And let's say something as simple as a sugar cake, or even a coconut tart. You would be surprised to see how many
Really?
children do not know. Yes, simple things like that. Simple things like that. You would be surprised to see that they don't know. So yeah, that shows the importance of promoting and preserving and pushing our heritage. A coconut drop. Children like, what's a coconut drop? Yeah, yes, definitely.
Wow.
definitely. A kinip, like a fig.
Wow.
Students,
Okay.
yes, yes. So it shows the importance of really building that awareness, and especially amongst our youngsters, because they have to
Yeah.
grow with it, and that's the important part.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Mila, you want to join in? Something you want to contribute?
Yeah, no, I mean from a policy perspective and from a political perspective, right? We need to close that gap at those levels. I don't think that these are things that should be just left to persons to want to do on their own, although yes, you can have that argument, but we need to kind of infuse our curriculums with like, mandatory visits to the museum every school, and really infusing the curriculums with what the museums offer. I know that there are, of course, will be a need for a digital museum or a digital tour of the museum, but we have to get to a place where this is normal for any single student, elementary or secondary in school. So I'm hoping that yeah, that can happen.
And I'm glad that you raised that point because when Amaris talked about that some of the children weren't aware of certain information, I started to wonder about the relationship, and I put between quotation marks, between the museum and those that prepare the curriculum, so to say, so that they are both informing each other. You see, that was the first thing that came to my mind. So I'm glad that you raise it up because every time we would hear, we needed to get it in schools, we need to get it in schools, we have to upgrade. And then afterwards, a year later, we having the same conversation again. You
Yep.
understand? And that to me, at one point, it makes you scratch your head, because you're a bit confused as to, what's happening between what we say and what we actually
What's
do.
actually happening? Yeah.
You see?
But I
Exactly.
think,
And Amaris, sorry, Amaris and I are both mothers, and I could remember, I mean, my daughter's 11 now. I could remember her being maybe 5 or 6, and her social studies project was to create um, like an indigenous Amerindian village. And I was like, okay, we did have indigenous persons on St. Martin, but I want you to create an African village, right, where our enslaved ancestors were. And so I questioned why the curriculum did not have enough of our history, especially when we can relate to it in modern days. And this
mhm,
is something that it's like I'm on that fight now, Bakari, because we can't continue like this. No. Yeah.
yeah. But
Yeah.
that's and I don't even think it's necessarily only linked to the museum, but just our curriculum, and some schools, but you can actually see the difference in the schools when they come to visit. Some schools visit, some
Mm,
So there
teachers.
is inequality.
Yes, some
Inequality.
teachers
wow.
do focus on it. Some schools do have it in their curriculum. Maybe not to the level we would all want it to be, but at least they do have it. But if we really within the schools, within the curriculum, really try to embrace and push our heritage, put it. It doesn't just have to be a subject. You can incorporate it in their English, in their literature, in their even in their maths. Our children don't even know how to use the gilder. Let's
Maybe
really be real. Yeah.
what do you mean they don't what do you mean they don't know how to use the gilder? What does that mean?
But Harry,
Uh,
some children hardly even know what's a gilder. So I'm telling you,
yeah.
because we have coins up there. They're like, oh, what is this? It's our reality. It is. I know we don't want to speak it, but it's our reality
Yeah.
because they do not get gilders in school. They do not get it. I don't know. I can't. Let me not speak for all the schools, but the majority
Yes.
of schools that I know of, they don't get it. They do not get it as a currency. They don't get it. Oh, this is a guilder versus this is a euro versus this is a dollar. While
Wow.
we use all three on the island, okay, but that's we're in culture, so I won't go there. But I mean to say, it has to be in this in our curriculum everywhere. Everything you breed, it should be there. You should be able to recognize St. Martin in every aspect of our curriculum because our children they need to connect. They need to connect with it. That's why they're so free to connect with everything else because you know what's
But
there
that's
for
why
them
we
to connect with. It's not.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Mila.
Go ahead,
No,
go ahead.
sorry, Amaris. No, no, no. I just want to say that's why we have an identity crisis. So, yeah.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, right? I'm glad because when I think about the museum, I think about memory. I automatically think about memory. I automatically think about having a frame of reference. You see, and that's why I started off with the first sentence with globalization,
Mm-hmm.
with the influx of persons who are not coming to St. Martin culturally empty-handed. They are bringing their culture with them. You
Mm-hmm.
see, I'm not going to go into the demographics because it's been said that we are a minority. So we have all of these, let's call them waves coming our way. So my question is, with all of that happening, how do we then survive or overcome the identity crisis that seems to be very prevalent on St. Martin?
You want to go first, Amaris, or you want me?
You go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, identity, it plays such a big role in every single thing that we do, how we think, how we get through situations, how we talk. Um, and for me personally, it has been like something that I have been on this journey, not only necessarily to discover, but what I'm calling to kind of codify, because I think that's our issue. We were just talking about the lack of a heritage infused curriculum. That's one of the biggest problems, because you naturally walk with your culture everywhere you go. Like, let's be honest, if we in the
That's
States,
right.
if we in Holland, we could be St. Martiners in Holland and in the States,
That's
right? But
right.
what's important, especially for young people who are the future, the idea that they have to turn into citizens starts with their education. So education is the key pillar when it comes to who do you want your citizen to be eventually. And so you have to tell them what your values are, what your culture is, so that if they're not getting it at home, they get it at school. And they can do both, right? Because some of us are not just one thing. And diversity is also important, but at least at school they're told who they should be, or who that foundation, what foundation they should stand on, and then whatever else that is in their life, they can kind of use it to like supplement. But so for me, education is number one. Also, to what is important, because let's say if you're not a young person and you just come to the island, we kind of we don't really have enough avenues to inform people anymore. We used to have, let's say, cable TV that everybody had 20, 30 years ago. Now you don't have that. So that means that you have to create programming to teach people that, hey, listen, this is the culture that you're in. This is what we do. And I just want to use the example because I think we don't realize how easy it is. So just as simple, the same way how we could create jingles and commercials on the radio, you use those commercials as sort of, I want to say, propaganda. And
PSA.
you kind of teach people,
PSAs.
yeah, like a PSA. Because I lived in St. Thomas for about 2 years, the Virgin Islands. And I remember there was a PSA to, I believe, Americans on the radio that would run, telling them, listen, when you're walking on the road, you tell somebody good morning. That's how we do it.
Oh,
Right? And
really?
that's how we are as well. How offended are you when somebody don't pass you and tell you good morning?
Highly,
Again, that's
highly
our
offended.
culture.
But
So
that's our generation as well.
if we have to create a radio program to teach visitors and to teach new residents, like that's what we need to do. But it needs to be infused in the daily lives of our people and also in
I was
school.
getting to that.
But
I
not
was
only
I was
that,
definitely getting to that.
but also the visual aspect of it. Before you would say, you would actually see signs, good morning. When you come off the ship, say good morning. We also have to
Yeah.
maybe bring it back to that as well. I know you have to be innovative, especially with our young children. So, hey, you do the TikToks, do whatever it is the young people do. But also, hey, when they come into the airport, you say, hey, guess what? You have to say good morning. You have to say good afternoon. Here we greet. So you teach them from the get-go. When they come off the ship, that should be one of the first things that they see. So they should first see that, see culture, see us, see who we are as a Samoan people, because that's their first point when they land and they reach here. So
So do you think we have to do a better job in raising patriots in our community?
definitely.
I personally believe that, yes, yes, and that
Okay.
comes from learning. So as when you learn and you understand, you could be proud of it, and it's not rocket science at all,
Mhm.
Okay, I totally agree. I totally agree, and that's the reason why I love I love the initiative with preserving and promoting our St. Martin slangs. I really
Mhm.
love that because it shows the world our uniqueness. It shows the world that we have something to offer also. And there's some other little there's some programs which I love. Shout out to Melissa Fleming with Under the Sandbox Tree. When you hear her talk, I'm like, I hope somebody's recording this
Yes.
because maybe in a generation or two, we won't be hearing this type of St. Martin, the St. Martin lingo. Let's call it like that.
Mhm.
But I totally agree with you when it comes to preserving the culture because um, without your heritage and your culture, you end up working against your own interests. You
Mm.
see, and that's
Mm.
something that we see a lot. We can relate to everybody, but can everybody relate to us? We can
Mhm.
develop for every other society. You see what I'm
Mhm.
saying? But how do we then develop for us? And with
Mhm.
culture, it causes you to be about a bit more inward directed, because culture demands its preservation and survival. It
Mhm.
demands that. Even if it have to evolve, it have to demand that. I'm a big proponent of that also, and especially when young children can see where they came from, you know that they would not take anything for granted.
Mhm.
I think we live in a society where because they don't understand the value of it, they understand how
Yep.
hard, not even your parents, but your foreparents have to work to get something,
Yep.
that we just
Mm.
easily underestimated and discarded. You
Yes.
see? So that's why I like being said that they had the typewriter and the iron heater. Let them know where they came from.
That's
Exactly.
You
true.
understand? They
Because
didn't just born with these
they cannot
things.
imagine a world without electricity.
Can you imagine?
They cannot imagine that.
Can you imagine? And the beautiful part is, and Mila, you're gonna love this.
Mhm.
When we truly understand our culture, we develop survival skills.
Ooh,
And we are
exactly.
able to we,
Yep.
we are able to reduce our dependency on the system once we understand truly how our ancestors did it.
Yep.
You understand what I'm saying? And those are type of and children are naturally inquisitive.
Mhm.
So if you can show them how to prepare a meal with 3 stones, for example, or how to keep water cool in a clay pot, you
Mm-hmm.
know, I am sure that by the time they learn it from you all, they're gonna run. I mean, I hope they don't burn on the place, but I am sure they are going to go and try and
Yeah,
showcase what they have learned, and that's preservation also.
that is.
You know, so
Of
and
course. It builds a
go ahead, go ahead.
confidence, like that confidence that comes from, being more than just regular schmegular is something that,
Correct,
I enjoy
correct.
as well from us knowing where we came from and it's important. And we've used the word resilience. Every time hurricane comes around, we use the word resilience. But do we
Yes.
really understand what resilience means? And
Go
I'm sure
into
some
that for me, please.
people
Go into that word for me, please. I have my reservations about it.
ooh. um So resilience to me, and I said we use the word when hurricane comes around, right? And maybe we've overused it, but to me, like I actually just say when a storm is coming, I
Mhm.
prepare. I'm never the one to let's say go because I actually look forward to cleaning up and helping out and going into the community, because I believe that this is who we are. We're not a people who just run from hardships or fold and give in, you know? So that, to me, when I hear the word resilience, I try to remind myself that it's more than just, oh, we billing back after
Correct.
hurricane. You know, it comes from generations of like working through some serious hardships, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think so
Go ahead.
when we talk about that, the term of it takes a village. You know, that's what we came from. That's what we built. That's what we are built from, and that's something we have lost. Or I don't want to say have lost, but you know, we're losing it in time passing. So I think it's something that if we could get back to that mindset, that village mentality, and also, you know, teach our children what it how you say that in English, what it entails, what it's about. You know, it takes a village, meaning, you know, that child, no child is alone. You know, understand that you have a whole everybody behind you, and no matter what, that we push in, you know, and we push in together. You know, I think that also goes hand in hand with that resilient
Well,
part
what
of.
don't
But
you like about the word Bakari? What you don't like about it?
well, not that I don't like. I just have, you see, we've used the word so much, and while it can be used to foster a sense of mental toughness, so to say, you know, it plants within you that, hey, you know what, I can overcome this. But
Mm,
sometimes, because we have heard it so much, we then we don't see the necessity of taking care of the self.
yeah.
Because before you were resilient, something happened, whether it was a trauma, a
Mm,
setback, or whatever have you. But if I'm telling you that you're resilient, you might not see the necessity to go and say, hey, you know what, I might need to talk to somebody about this. And if I have to go and talk to someone about this, does that mean I am less resilient? You know? So just
yeah.
like everything in life, there are extremes, and at one point, extremes just meet on the other end. So we can be so resilient to the point where on the other end, we might be doing a disservice to ourselves. So that's the reason why I say I have my iffy, I'm
Yeah.
iffy about the term and its application at times. You see, I've known it became a buzzword.
Yeah.
It was a very, it gained a lot of currency after Hurricane Irma. Okay. And I think we needed that. I think we needed that. But just like everything else, it has to be a phased approach. You see, you have to also, and some organizations do it, promote self care. Look out for your holistic well being, you know,
Mhm.
mind, body, soul, and spirit. Take care of everything. So I think that too has it should come to the forefront more, because when I observe in our society the number of persons who I suspect might be suffering from a burnout, who I suspect might be very stressed out to the point where, you know, they are a bit disorientated intellectually. You know what I mean? I get worried. And it's not 2 or 3 persons. You see, I get worried. You see, so that's my that's my
And
perspective.
I love that that is your perspective, because that is something that has been coming up a lot. I noticed not as much on St. Martin, but in the region, and especially in the Netherlands and everything, when it comes to museum and our history and our culture and our heritage, the word healing, you know, I love the word, but
Okay.
it's not. I'm not hearing it as much here, and people watch me like, what museum got to do with healing? You know,
Oh,
when I'm down here, but out there it's something that more and more people are talking about now, and I fully understand what you're saying, especially here on St. Martin, and I've seen it. I've shed some tears for it already. um and it's way deeper than what we think and what we can imagine. To be honest, when I speak about the museum, my favorite part is speaking about healing. And I think
mm,
it's a part that we shy away from, that we're still scared to touch on, but it is so necessary, because how long are we going to run from it, you know? And
running from what? Talk the thing. Running from what?
We're running from the fact that we need healing. We need healing individually.
Yeah,
We need healing
definitely.
as a people. We need healing as a nation. Or we need healing as a kingdom. Every which way you turn, we need healing. The
Mm,
depths of it, the family, the generation, it goes back to I don't know how deep you want to go. If we want to talk lifetimes ago, we need a healing. And we need to start talking about it because, as you say, everywhere you go, you're seeing people are tired.
yeah.
People are tired and people are drained and people are down. Our people are fighting a fight. And I understand the same thing you're saying about we're resilient because we feel we always have to be resilient. People don't understand how good it is to cry because guess what? By crying, you need to
Mm,
heal. Understand? So, and I think that's another podcast on its own. But um the healing part of it and to heal especially people of color. I don't know because I hear no, you're supposed to say black you, but what the trauma we've been through as a people, we have to understand that's almost 400 years of trauma. That's in our blood, that's in our
mm,
DNA. So imagine that's going to take another 400 years minimum to heal from, and in everything we do, in everything we say, in the smallest things, we don't understand that that can be generational, that stems from
mm,
what all that stems from, where that comes from, so that's why I say some people say like, because where we want to take the museum, people say but it's just a museum, but no, it's not just a museum. The whole point of it is for us to teach our people, to build our people, and to heal our people, and that's really
mm,
where we want to take it and where we want to go, that you can come. um Everybody needs to ask that question: who am I, where am I going, and when you're asking those questions for yourself, of course the museum can only be a guide, can help you along the way, but that should trigger that within you moving forward. And that's where we need to head to, that healing individually, and especially as a people, especially as a nation. If we see now what's going on, I saw a list this morning. We are in the top 10 for
right.
murder in the
Yeah.
Caribbean. I don't know if you
Yes.
saw that. That was
I saw
circulated.
that one. Yeah.
We're number 9. Where is Little St. Martin? Where are we going? Where are we going? And I understand, yes, there's that, all the excuses, but let's come down to it. What's going on with our youth?
Yeah.
So that's why I say this probably is another topic, but it's deep. It's really deep, and I don't think we realize how deep it is. As you say, when you look at people, and we like to throw around this word mental health, but really, what is really going on with our people? So
Mm.
yeah.
Go ahead, Mila.
The thing about, and I agree fully with both of you and what you've said, what came to mind is that with healing, so even as an individual going to a psychologist, you have to like go back in time. You have to go back to places maybe that you were hiding from, or spaces in your mind that you wanted to forget, in order to uncover these wounds. So imagine having to do that at a national level. We have to go back to our heritage, how things started for us, the ugliness that is slavery and colonialism, and start to unpack that before we could even, so that's where the healing journey begins. And that's why heritage is so important, because from there then we could move forward. And another thing that I believe would also be difficult though for our people is the fact that we also need to be honest, right, about what happened. And we have to look at ourselves in the mirror and admit to things that we might not be proud of, in order for us to heal and move forward. So
Yeah.
it's such a process, but it's such an important process that we have to do, a journey that we have to take now at a national level. And it begins to me with our history and heritage.
I think, I mean, I cannot disagree with anything, that was said, because it comes right back down to identity again. You
Uh-huh.
understand? And I would even submit to you that because we have not grasped and owned who we are as a people, we end up taking on identities of others.
Yep.
Because of that void that we feel, we then try to
Yep.
replace it, substitute it with something else, or because we are not proud of our own identity, we now try to take on another one. You see,
And not
because go
I,
ahead, go ahead.
and no, I was going to say not only take on, but not that we're not proud of it, but playing out with some we just don't know. There are
yeah.
so many
Okay.
gaps and so many missing parts in our stories because our story is here, our story is there. And that's where the platform came into play and why it's so important. We don't even have our own national archives, and we don't understand the importance of having that
Mhm.
national archives. I could go to the national archives in Curacao, sit behind a computer and look up my grandparents or
That's
their
right.
grandparents. Why can't we do that here? Because that is important for our people here. So we need to understand the importance of having that established here so we can. Tis we story. We like to say that tis we story, but what is our story? We need to really
Correct.
get that down packed, not only for us, but for our children and their children to come. And then this is where the seniors come into play and where we need to get that information out of them, all the stories so we can really know our true story. And I think that's really one of the hiccups we have in our national identity, knowing the full story of who we are as a nation.
And you know what's both crazy and so we have everything there already, right? So a lot of people might say, oh, but I don't have nothing. There's no everything is there. So it's not as if we don't have our archives and our materials and our artifacts. It's there. I believe first and foremost, the government needs to make it a priority to create that national archives and say, listen, guys, now we're really going to take our history and heritage seriously and use these archives to, like I said, infuse the curriculum and so forth. But Carrie, earlier you talked about the slangs, Swaligan slangs, and over the last few years, like I've really, really been enjoying it because we went from being told to speak proper English, right, when we were younger, to now embracing our semantic English. And I could always remember from young saying, I like the way I talk. Why do I mean code switching is important,
Yes.
but
Exactly.
I like the way I talk. And again, it connects to our confidence as a people, right? Enjoying who we are, being proud of who we are, and kind of embracing, everything about us. Over the last few years, we've also seen the rise again of our, let's say, local soca artists, right? In the 90s, Simata soca music was amazing, and then we kind of lost it, and then we've seen these individual artists come back, we've seen the bands come back as well, and I'm so happy. But a part of me is like, oh my god, if we don't continue to like nurture and develop and support, it might disappear again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That is so true. Amaris, you want to say something?
No, because me and Ludmilla, we always have this thing because I understand and I fully am there with the Samaritan English, but I have a but. And this is something we're not realizing. We knew the switch. We know the switch. Understand? We know to switch over from the Samaritan English, then you know how to speak the proper English. But our young children don't.
Then the
So
school system failing that. I'm sorry, the school system failing
what
that.
you
Not
have now
putting it in
is
school.
not limiting all schools, but the children write how they speak. So it's very important for
Mm.
us to teach them, hey, guess what? No, and I don't want to say proper English versus Samaritan English. No, I'm not going to use the terms, but you have to know the switch. You have to know the switch, and I love this man. Trust me, I love this one. It expands everything, but we also have to teach the children the switch because guess what? When they go out into the world and they go to the States and they go to Holland and they can't write Samat in English. They
Then
can't
our school
do it.
system failing them, Amari. How come
But
I could have
that's
switched when
another
I went to
topic.
college?
That's an education topic that we have to address. But this is what is happening, and you see it in the work field when these children come out of school. You've seen it. You've seen it when you're just having a conversation with them. You've seen it.
But I
So
think there's a general issue now with Gen Z that people are complaining that they write how they text. So I don't know.
Yes, yeah, that has a lot to do with it also. and right now the conversation has been reduced to emojis. You see? No, I'm
That's
dead
a different
serious.
topic.
I
Yeah,
saw
I
I
mean,
saw an entire conversation
Exactly.
with just emojis
oh,
alone, and I'm like, I must be a grandpa
no,
because
I have not seen
I
that one
can't
yet.
relate.
No, I have not seen that one yet. But I know because someone told me, Amaris, you have children, you have to keep up. But I understand. I understand. I haven't seen the
It,
emojis yet.
Sorry, guys, I have to run to another
I
podcast.
know,
It was such a
not a
pleasure,
problem.
but can you please invite me back for another
We're going to do it
topic?
again. No worry. We're going to
Thank
do it
you for
again.
having
But
me.
thanks for
And
your time.
yes,
Thanks for
it
your
was
time.
fun.
Okay. All right. All the
Definitely.
best. Okay.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Thanks.
All right. Bye
Bye.
bye. Okay.
Bye.
So I see here we have some comments, right? We have SX Academy SBO. We have Rita Pantoflet. Good afternoon. Since we are talking about identity on St. Martin, how come the alley is called Sydney? I don't know if I heard it correctly. The alley that the museum is located. What is it
Mhm.
called?
Spatians.
Spainchus.
Spatians.
Spainchus.
Patience.
Okay, we
So
ain't doing that.
patience is
That
the
one.
notary. The notary was located. The notary
Okay,
that was formerly in the alley was the
yeah.
Spatians alley. Yes,
Okay.
and the
And
alley is
this,
actually owned by the Spatians family.
okay, I got you. Tell me something.
Mm-hmm.
Mindful of the role of the museum for heritage and memory and thing, do you think we should rename some of these streets in Phillipsburg
Um,
from a cultural historical perspective?
yes and no. So I
Okay,
do agree with a lot of renaming, but I'm not saying renaming, but also give new names
okay,
because one thing, and this is what Ludmila was saying too, sometimes we want to erase the ugly truths, but sometimes we actually have to face the ugly truths because
okay, true.
no matter how you twist or turn it, it is our history. That
Mm,
is part of our story, as ugly as it might be, as much as we do not like it, it is part of our story.
yeah,
Um, and I have no problem with renaming it. Let's say if this person did so much for that area and you want to say, I fully agree with it. I have no problem with it. But at the same time, I do say, because guess what? That is the story. That is actually what happened. That's the person who lived there. We cannot erase it because by
okay.
erasing it, you're skipping a part of the story. So as ugly as it
Mm,
might be, as much as we don't like certain things, because I hear this thing about Phillipsburg versus Great Bay. And because I worked in Vromi, I can say Great Bay is the name of the entire area. Phillipsburg is the name of the neighborhood within the Great Bay area. So
oh,
the name of
really?
that entire area is Great Bay.
Wait,
So
say
I
that
hear
again.
this.
Repeat that again.
Okay,
Repeat
so
that
let me
again.
break this down. Um, if you have your address, just like if you live in the States, if you live in Holland, you have your address. Your address consists of your street name, your neighborhood, and then your district. That's for St. Martin. Your street name and your street number. You have that. You have your district, sorry, your neighborhood, and then you
Yes,
have your district. So
correct.
let's say my address is Front Street number 7 in the neighborhood of Phillipsburg in the district of Great Bay.
Oh, wow.
Great Bay is the official name for the entire area, including Phillipsburg, including parts of Upper Town, including parts of even Pondville. The Pond. It's the Great Bay area. That's already the official name of the area. So I hear this conversation, but that's why I say knowledge, awareness is so important because when you have your address, you actually have 3 parts to your address, including your number, of course, your house number. But your
Mm,
address, your official address consists of 3 parts: your street name, your neighborhood, and your district. We have
wow.
the districts on St. Martin are Great Bay, Lower Princess Quarter, Upper Princess Quarter, Coal Bay, Cul-de-sac, Simpson Bay, and Lowlands. Those are the districts on St. Martin. I believe I named them all. I'm not sure if I'm missing one. Little Bay, sorry. Understand?
Okay.
So you have
Okay.
8 districts, and Great Bay is one of the official districts with on St. Martin. It's already
Wow.
official. Yes.
Okay. I mean, I've
I'm
learned
glad that
something.
you asked that question.
Yeah. I learned something
Mhm.
today. You understand? Because I mean, I use the word grade B because of I'm a nationalist. You understand what I'm
I
saying?
understand. I
I would
understand.
use grade B. You follow?
Mm-hmm.
But this perspective here, I like it. You really bring the scientific aspect behind of it. So I appreciate it. Now you give me even more ammunition now to use grade B, you understand? No, but it's good. It's good. It's good.
Yes.
It's good. It's
But
good.
that's very important for us to know the division of St. Martin and what
Yeah.
lies where. So then you should know your you should know your street name, you should know your house number, of course. You should know what neighborhood it falls in, because let's say part of AT Road falls in Great Bay, part of AT Road falls in Lower Princess Quarter. So you know it's very important to know. And then you know your district.
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely, definitely. Then I have here Academy SBO says, but even in the curriculum, we were talking about the curriculum earlier, is saying that it has to be Aboriginal. The individual teacher can deviate from it and incorporate, for example, African culture. Do you see that? Well, what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, when they mean Aboriginal,
Indigenous.
indigenous, and it's something that I think we're still learning about,
Okay.
because of course, and this is the story, because it was, okay, as we say, his story and not our
Yes,
story, you know.
that's right.
It has to be rewritten. A lot of it has to be
Mm,
rewritten. So that's why I don't even like to use the term American, Amerindians, I use indigenous. I like to say the word indigenous because of course that story came from the books that we received. And
correct.
so let's say where we heard, this is what I've learned from Jay Havisser, who's from CMARC. Um, and he has the archaeological foundation on Samaritan. So something as simple as not using Arawaks and
Correct.
Caribs
Yes, correct. Yes, yes.
names of the tribes, but that was actually names of the languages that they spoke. So names of the tribes are, let's say, the Tainos and the Kalinagos and the
Correct.
Indians, and so these are things that we do have to do. um I think a lot of research was done, but this, as I said, this has to get into our curriculums, But
Yes.
of course, we got curriculums from everywhere else, but we have to, and especially as a Caribbean nation, create our own curriculums where we can learn from each other as well and build that for our people. Because yes, that is something that's very important, that these stories get updated accordingly.
But you know what I often wonder, right? You are aware of this. Many people are aware of this, right? Who benefits when the curriculum does not take this important information into consideration? Because it's like somebody's benefiting.
You know what? Um, I don't want to go too deep into that question, and I'm not going to answer that question the way I would love to answer that question. But what I will say is, to touch on what you said, I know this, you know this. We think that many people know, but they don't.
Okay.
And we underestimate how much people don't know.
Okay.
It's very much so that we really underestimate how much people do not know. What we
Mm,
think is general knowledge, because maybe we got it as general knowledge,
yes.
it's no longer general knowledge. A lot of it
Mm,
isn't. When you delve in and going deep into different topics, other people don't. We feel heritage is so important. Heritage is everything. People, people don't even think twice about it. But
mm,
because it's our world, it's what we think. It's what we think. It's what we breed. We think that everybody should think it. Everybody should breed it, but it's not the reality. And I think I saw a
mm,
video today. I didn't really get to look at it, but I think someone was interviewing persons in the Netherlands of who's Tula. And I think out of so many people, like two or three of them knew, you know? And that's the reality. That's our reality, unfortunately. But because we think heritage is important, we have to understand that 90% of the people, or maybe 80% of the people out there don't, you know and that's where we come in, and that's where we have to build that consciousness, we have to build that awareness, we have to educate people, and teach people the importance of it as well.
mm.
Tell them, guess what? So as I say, um a people without education of their history is like a tree without Roots.
That's
We,
right.
I mean,
That's
you know, we get that because you need your roots. You need your foundation. Understand, to be able to build and grow from. But I think it's very difficult, and it's a task that we have to teach people why that is important, and that goes back down to the national identity, you know. And I understand we say, oh, St. Martin has an identity crisis, but why?
Mm-hmm.
But why? You know, we have people who come from every, how come? And I like to ask people back this question: why is it that only St. Martin has a national identity crisis? Why? How come somebody who comes from Curacao could live here 60 years, they do not lose their Curacao accent, and they still are you Curacao? How come somebody from Trinidad, the same thing? Somebody from Dominica, I had this conversation with somebody from Dominica, and he said, although, and he could admit, he said, you know what? Yes, my heart is with St. Martin. I've lived here for over 40 years, but I can still clearly hear his Dominican accent. And he wears his Dominican pride strong. And that's what we try to tell people. It's not about you not being a St. Martin, or who's a St. Martin or who not, but that pride that you carry as a Dominican, as a Jamaican, as a Hollander, you carry that pride no matter where you go. So what happened to our St. Martin pride? What happened to our St. Martin national identity? You know, we have to, you know, stand strong in that, and, you know, especially for our children. Especially for our children, because I don't like to hear it like, you know, it's the Martin identity dying. No, we really have to push it, because no matter where else you go, or no matter who comes here, they still have their identity, no matter
Yeah.
what.
But because let me see here. Rita Pandeflet says our children don't know about the guilder because their household only speaks the US dollar. And then she says you are right, because as of late they use Phillipsburg, but back in the years it was Great Bay. And
Mm-hmm.
then SXM Academy SBO says, oh yes, I hear it often about a Papiamento accent. Can't do nothing about that. Laughing emojis, you know. No, but listen, one thing I can say, right, is that, you know, many of us lived abroad for quite a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And many of us, when we lived abroad, our St. Martinness came to the forefront, you
True.
know, because we are looking for whatever product, we are looking for whatever groups that reminds us of home. You
Mm-hmm.
understand? Whether it's the parties, whether it's the student clubs, whether it's whatever, we would always look for that. And you know, when it comes to the festivities, everybody waving their flag and so forth and so on. So one thing I have noticed is that when you are in another country, your individual culture, your national culture comes out stronger.
Yes.
You understand? That's something I have noticed.
I have noticed it, but to be very honest with you, because I love to go to different places, and I love to go to Caribbean parties where no matter where I go. And I would
Mm-hmm.
say it's very strong in the Netherlands. But if I go to other places within the Caribbean region or within the US, I
Mm.
do not get that St. Martin, that strength that you would feel as in the Netherlands. Um,
Okay.
and I
Okay.
find we come together less when it's outside
Mm.
of the Netherlands. Let's say we went to a St. Martin party with a friend in Atlanta long time ago, and she lived in Atlanta, and this was an example. And we were at a Caribbean party, everybody there with the Caribbean flags, and she said that night the DJ was like, "Yeah, St. Martin." She was like, "Wow." She said all the years that she lived in St. Martin, this was the first time that a DJ, you know, said St.
Calm
Martin.
down.
I think she had lived in Atlanta for over 6 years. So
Okay.
where we think that we're big on the map, and you know, I've noticed, especially in the US and within the other Caribbean regions, it's not so. Um,
Mm.
and I find even when we do go and we're separated, we don't come together, you know, the way I think we
Sure.
should. I see
Yeah.
other countries, and you know, no matter where I go, and you see Anguillians, they say, look, not because we together here, I mean we together in Anguilla, but no matter where
True.
they go, they're together. You know, VI,
Mm.
let's not even talk about VI. No matter which VI island you're from, US, British, when VI go out, VI represents. You know, but I
Mm.
tend not to see that with St. Martin, and I find that I'm trying to figure out how come. I don't know why. I
Mm.
don't know where, but in Holland, no, I find it very, very strong in Holland. Maybe we less, but I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but I don't find we're as represented um, outside of the Netherlands or outside of St. Martin as much in the other territories. And
Okay.
you would always see too, like no matter where you go, especially if you go to New York and you see all the Caribbean flags, you would see St. Martin flag is missing. So I always say, but how come? Why? What's going on? So
Mm-hmm,
that's the
mm-hmm,
thing.
mm-hmm.
I think we also need to work on too, more as a nation to put ourselves out there as well, because I think our presence still isn't enough on the Caribbean scheme, and also, in the US scheme of things. As a tourist
Yeah,
destination, yes, but when it comes to like cultural stuff and you know what I mean? I'm
yes,
missing
yes.
it here. I
No,
am.
I agree. I agree because one thing that reggae music did, right, besides its message, it popularized Jamaican culture.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
understand? That's one thing it has
Exactly.
done. Okay. Soca and Kaiso, exactly the same thing. While you're being entertained and you're moving to the beats and everything else, it popularized to the
Yep.
point where some of us are looking to find out what are some of these words and terms are because they sound so unique, you see. And that's the reason why too. And I agree with you with the amount of attention our local artists,
Yes.
right, have been receiving, and whether they go away and perform. I always love that because they are taking St. Martin with them. You
Mm-hmm.
understand what I'm saying? They are
Exactly.
showing the region that, hey, we
Mm-hmm.
have talent also. Something that always struck me, right? When I visit Curacao and I'm listening to the radio, if the radio station is on for 8 hours, right? At least 7 hours is dedicated to local music. Yeah?
Yep. Yep.
At least
Exactly.
7 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can be exaggerating, but my point is that the stations will play and blast, even if it's the same song over and over, but they are going to be playing that. There are some stations that does, play different things, but there are some they are true to their culture.
And no matter
Yeah.
what time you put on the radio, and that's what I find important. You could put on that radio 4 o'clock in the morning. No matter what time you put on the radios, especially in Curacao, Aruba, you
Yes.
hear their local music.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and just even you hear. So I wonder the same thing. What's going on here?
Correct.
And
Correct. And thank goodness for I mean you do have a few stations here that just try to play,
mm-hmm.
like for example, there was one time I was listening to a station on a Saturday, and they just play like calypso, you know. And one day they were playing the songs from King Bobo.
Nice.
Now, the Calypso show is about 2 hours. From start to end, they only played, I think it was his birthday or something like that. From start to finish, they only played King Bobo songs.
Beautiful.
And I want you to know that they didn't even get through, let's say, because of my memory, they didn't get through all of the songs from the 80s.
Nice.
So they still had enough for the
Mm-hmm.
90s coming up.
Exactly.
So I am saying to myself, if I could have benefited, I benefited greatly, immensely from listening to that program, right? How many others,
Mm-hmm.
would have benefited from
Exactly.
listening to those, from those kaisos from back in those days?
Yep.
You understand?
And
And
how do we pass this on to our children?
that's the thing. And one thing I must say, yeah, they were like and I'm gonna just take on the kaiso. There were workshops, teaching young people about how to, write a kaiso, the beat and so forth. So I do see that that sustainability. I see that.
Good.
It
Mm-hmm.
would be dishonest of me to say well nothing ain't going on. I have seen
Yes,
that,
yes,
you
definitely.
know. Yeah, I have seen that even with like for example, learning of the steel pan.
Yes.
I've seen that. I've learned about the Johnny cake making workshops and the traditional
Yes.
tarts
Yes.
workshops. You
Mm-hmm.
see, but what I notice, and you'll have to correct me now, and this is not a slight or shade against anyone, but when it comes to, let's say, a festival, right? I will get 20 messages, SMS, WhatsApp, flyer. I put on a radio, I hear the advertisement. I put on television, for example, or I go through Facebook, the ads constantly pop up. So you're always being reminded when it's time to have a party, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to these important cultural events, the Arrowroot Festival, for example, you
Mm-hmm.
know, sometimes it's like you have to pick somebody mouth to find out what it is going on. You see?
Yeah. And I would say, unfortunately, it has a lot to do with finances, of course, funding. Unfortunately, in the field of culture heritage, we lack the funding. So everything you do, and a lot of stuff is on voluntary basis. You don't have
Mm,
that money to push into marketing, and I think this is somewhere where we can address corporate responsibilities.
correct. Correct.
Ask more, try to get the businesses more involved. I mean, when you go Curacao and it's Curacao Carnival, every company you go into, every business, everywhere you go, it's Curacao Carnival. So I
Mm,
think that's one thing we need to tackle with our business society much more, to get that help, and to ask them, of course, because it's kind of their responsibility as well to assist where these things are concerned. But
of course.
unfortunately, too much of it is volunteer work, and
Mm,
yes, and a lot of foundations are nonprofit foundations, nonprofit organizations, persons just doing stuff on their own. And there's a lot of it. There is a lot. And I must commend everyone who's out there pushing, because a lot is going on. But as you say, you don't hear about it the way you would hear about the big festivals, and everything. So we have to change that. That's something we definitely have to change. But all I definitely can say, funding is something. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
right.
Yeah.
So because of the funding issue, how does the organization survive?
We make it.
By the
Yeah.
grace of God. By the
by,
grace of
by the grace of God. I won't even lie. I can't even say anything to it, by the grace of God, to be very honest.
Okay.
And
Okay.
you just have a lot of people who put in their own sweat, blood, tears, everything, and everything they do. And it's sad that that has to be culture, or this aspect of our society. And but even not only that, I mean, when you see people out there pushing for health, people out there pushing for the youth, arts, everything, those are the societies that's not where the money is at, unfortunately. And that's actually what our society needs the most.
Mm,
But it's a struggle, and I hope it's something we can change, um,
yeah.
and that we can build on. But really, I must really commend, and I've met many people who are just out there pushing, and
Mm,
pushing is some pushing on their own, some in groups, organizations, but majority of them are nonprofit. But they all work for the country. They all work, for this.
yeah.
So I must commend a lot of
But
hardworking people out there.
but earlier you said that there's no money in culture, right? But do you think that should be the main reason why, or could that be the main reason why, I should ask, that persons do not contribute as much as, let's say, they ought to? Let's stick with the companies in the private sector.
Maybe. I think maybe they don't see the return.
Okay.
And I won't say, let's say if you're looking for funding, I must say companies do give. So when it
Okay.
comes to sponsorship, asking, companies do give. But when I say money, let's say sustainability, when it comes to structural funding, so that's what I meant
Okay.
money in culture. So that's sustainable, that you could drive, or you say that you could turn,
Yeah.
you could,
Sure. Yeah.
push on your own without having to be dependent on, anything else. That you have a budget you could set aside for marketing, you have a budget you could set aside. That's not there, but I must say, a lot of companies, when you come with sponsorship and you need this or you need that, yes, we do get a lot of assistance. I do
Okay.
believe a lot of companies do help with that, but that sustainable funding and to be able to
It's
hire
missing.
proper staffing, to be able to just for your organization to run on a, just to be able to run, let me just say, that's missing. That's missing.
Wow.
Yeah.
But then, if you are unable to get that sustainable funding, right? Then what sort of expectations do they have in terms of the museum achieving its mission and objectives then?
I think that's our question. I
Oh,
think
okay.
that's the question we all have,
Okay.
and I must say, now we are getting a lot of assistance from the Netherlands.
Okay.
So that's really what we're working on. That's actually how we function and how we keep up. Um, that's we do get a subsidy from government, and I know many of the nonprofit organizations do get a subsidy, but it's not enough to maintain. Let me say,
Mm,
um, and but recently, and especially now with the past slavery year and everything going on,
yes,
we have been getting some more assistance from the Netherlands, but it comes with, okay, you have to be writing grants, you have to be writing these proposals, and that takes a lot,
of course.
and persons don't do it for free. So, and you need your staff, you still need to run as an organization, you still need to do, because you have your personal goals, you want to,
Correct.
you want to grow as a museum as well, or as any organization. So it's a lot that's going on, and so I love your question, and I think that's a question that needs to be asked out loud,
Mm.
very loudly.
Well, I mean, I don't have no problem asking that question out loud, because sometimes it just becomes so disheartening that we go to certain events and you hear the speeches, the lofty speeches that talk about culture, heritage, history, and identity, right? But
Mm-hmm.
then afterwards, when the cameras are off and everybody get the belly full and they go home, it's business as usual.
Yep.
You understand?
Mm.
And I mean, you don't have to say it, and you don't even have to agree. It just bothers me that so many of our historical and cultural sites are being destroyed, and I have not seen. Maybe they were given a warning, but I have not seen or heard like a stiff penalty. You understand what I'm saying? Meted out to the perpetrator, or rather to the culprit. It bothers me because I'll give you an example. I think it was last year. There was a manifestation at the Diamond Estate. They had the structure,
Mm-hmm.
right? Had the
Mm-hmm.
structure. They had a whole happening there with members of the second chamber, second and first chamber, I think, was there. And after a few weeks after the happening, the structure was just destroyed. Destroyed. Of course, you hear rumors, but where is my justice? You understand what I'm saying? Where is my justice? That's a part of me that perished. It's a part of me that perished. And we just go on like business as usual. We had the famous run, the midnight run organized by Conscious Lyrics, and after a while we just see development happening on that plot of land. You
Mm-hmm.
understand? And we talk about the importance of preserving culture, but we selling off land with important artifacts. You don't have to agree. You don't even have to comment. Yeah,
No, of course, I
this is
definitely
Bakari
will.
rant. This is Bakari's rant.
No, I have no problem commenting. Also coming from the Ministry of Romi, and I don't talk about it because, of course, I don't work there anymore. But for some reason, working there, a lot of the monuments would fall on my desk, and this is how I
Mm.
actually got deeper into heritage and what's really going on St. Martin. That was an eye opener for me. Let me say it like that.
Mm.
But you have to understand, we have laws, and unfortunately, not all of our monuments are protected by law. So unfortunately, the diamond estate, although it the value and what it meant for us runs so deep, it was not deep in our law. So that was not one of the protected sites, unfortunately.
Mm.
So that's what you get, unfortunately. But we've had so many stories and so many episodes and accountability. We as a people, we have to hold our leaders all accountable. We
Yeah.
have to hold our ministries accountable. Okay, what's going on? And not just by talking, but hey, asking the right questions, demanding the
Mhm.
right reports. What's the follow up? What's the follow? And I think that's it. Hey, okay, this happened. What's the follow up? But we forget, and we as a people too have to admit that we forget. Um, there's a sensation. Everybody, gets emotional or whatever, but then we forget. So follow up. Let's say what's going on. Hey, what's the outcome? What's going to happen? Action. What's going to happen moving forward? How can we prevent this from happening in the future? What are we doing to salvage what's left?
Yeah.
No? What are we going where what are we doing at our other sites? So, and it's also important because if you just drove by, you would never know that was there. How
Exactly.
would a tourist know, okay, guess what? That actually means something to the people of this land. And that's not just for that site, for every single site. So that's something we were hoping to work on together with the students. Not there, but in different sites, that, even though the structure may not be there anymore, that people can come and see, okay, guess what? This was here. And a
Correct.
lot of people, the talk is okay, but it's a part of slavery, so it's hurtful. So that's a conversation to have. What is hurtful, but what is the story behind it? Yes, it's a part of slavery, but as it is a part of slavery, it's still a part of our story. Guess what? Slaves built it. That means your ancestors built it. So that's a representative of their work. So although some people say it holds bad memories, just throw it down. So I understand the conversation, but let's have a conversation, a real conversation. Let's figure out, okay, let's have a sustainable plan. Let's have a vision. Vision, the word vision. Let's have a vision. I'm so sorry, but vision of not only where we're going, but what are we taking from what we had, to move forward with. How are we preserving it? What do we feel? What's the national consensus? How? But let's do something about it instead of just talking.
I agree. I agree with you. And I also want to point out that we, or rather, we see the destruction of our national symbols, and then at the same time we tend to get a little surprised by how little our children, our people know. You
Exactly.
understand what I'm saying? And that's a contradiction that I just see a lot. Okay. And to speak to the point you raised a while ago about hurtful memories, um, we all know what happened to persons of the Jewish faith, and
Hmm.
they do whatever it takes to ensure that the world never forgets.
Yeah.
And I think we ought to use, or rather, we have been using a similar approach by ensuring that the world never forgets what happened to our ancestors,
Exactly.
during that evil period of colonialism.
Hmm.
And we must not be shy about that.
Exactly.
We must not be shy about that. We must not equate the rage we feel as something evil, because there's something called righteous rage. Okay, there is something called righteous rage when you see the injustice that took place when you see the way how our ancestors were treated inhumanely, it's a righteous rage. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing wrong. Everyone goes through that from one time or the other. But as you said, you got to deal with it. And more importantly, when you look, or rather, when you see whether it is the images by the roundabout, the salt pickers, or whatever, that have to be a reminder to you as to where you come from and the price that was paid. A price was paid for us to have what we have today.
Exactly.
Okay, we all think that we are self-made men and women. Nothing goes so. Not in this society.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because we all needed somebody,
Yep.
one way or the other. You understand? We all needed somebody. And the thing is, because we constantly erase our past, we are now entering a new dispensation. We are entering a new dispensation, which is a new form of slavery. And because we have not considered what happened in the past, we can't see what is happening now, because we're going to use all of our intellectual faculties to explain it away. Okay, but whereas the reality is right in front of you, we're just
Yep.
modern slaves. And that's the reason why I think the museum and all of the cultural workers play a significant role to help us to remember,
Yes.
because the enemy wants us to forget.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason why they would have attacked our griots. They would have attacked our scholars. They would have attacked our historians, because they would have reminded us. That's why they would have separated the seniors from the children, because
Yep.
they don't want transmission to take place.
Mm-hmm.
You see, so they are banking on that. Okay, no matter what they say, they are banking. They are counting on that,
Yep.
so that they in turn they can do whatever they want with us.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So don't underestimate the work of the museum.
Oh,
Something
definitely not.
something that I forgot to mention, because the last time I was there, I saw a number of pamphlets and newspapers. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
right? I
Upstairs.
saw. I want to believe it was upstairs. Yes, I want to believe, and
Mm-hmm.
I saw some names and some articles. I mean, hey, it put me back. It put me back into my younger years, when I would hear these names very
Mm-hmm.
often. You understand what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
and it goes to show that we come from a culture of a people who weren't afraid to speak out.
Thank you.
We were never afraid to speak out, despite the
Never.
risks, despite the personal
Yep.
risk to ourselves and our family. We were never afraid to speak out. Something happened.
And we stood up.
We
And
stood up.
and we stood up together.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
this is exactly what you were saying just now. So I wanted to tap into that, to that's the importance of knowing where you came from,
yes,
and knowing the blood that runs through us, our DNA, what's in our DNA,
hmm,
because we always stop and we focus on slavery, slavery, slavery. And it's so important to understand that we were such a powerful people before we were slaves.
that's right.
We are a powerful people, and that
That's
still
right.
runs through us. And that's the importance of that knowledge. Oh no, not to focus. And this is what I was, we had a presentation recently, and my colleague from Stacia said it so well. You know, we have to understand that we were some of the strongest that were taken, you know,
That's right.
that came over. So we have to understand the strength and the power that we have in us. And not to only, you were talking about that rage from what happened to us, but to understand that with that rage, we also have to have a sense of gratitude to our
That's
ancestors for what they
that's right.
went through, understand, and what they left to us, because we take so much for granted. We take so much for granted. We have to be so grateful to our ancestors that we can live the way we live, nowadays. That we I can't underestimate how much we take it for granted. We
Yeah,
actually live in paradise. This thing what we say that people pay to vacation where we live, we have to understand
correct,
how that goes. So yes, they
correct.
suffered, but they suffered for us. And that gratitude, we have to pay that gratitude and that tribute to our ancestors by
Yeah.
honoring them, by honoring their legacy, and to understand and know what is in us, that powerful part of us, that what they try to strip away from us, knowing who we are, so that's really what I just wanted to touch what you were saying on just now.
No, it's good. And you know the things, I love what you said, because I remember hearing stories that, for example, my grandfather, he taught himself how to read and write.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? And then I had another grandparent, a grandmother on my dad's side, who wasn't so strong in reading and writing. And then my great grandmother had the same thing. And I
Mm-hmm.
said to myself, well, if they couldn't do it, then I need to do it for them.
Exactly.
You understand what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So,
You
so
have that ability now. It's gifted to you.
no, correct.
Gifted to
They
you.
weren't they weren't allowed, for example, to read wide and to get in depth. So I made it a point. I think you can see my small library in the back. That's just a portion of it. You understand? But I
Mm-hmm.
make it a point, I mean, to secure literature, not just for myself, but for my children, and hopefully for their children, for my
Mm-hmm.
family, so that they don't have to go and do that search all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying?
Definitely.
Because it's already one thing that we were indoctrinated, right, against ourselves. But today we have the power, we have resources, right, where we can correct that.
Yes.
We can. No one is telling me today I can't read a book.
Definitely.
The only thing they can do is carry up the price. And all I will have to do is save my money and buy the book. I'm gonna buy
Yeah.
it anyway because I know the
And even if you
value of
can't
it.
buy it, trust me, you might find it online. And that's
But
the
even that,
advantage this generation
even
has.
that,
And I tell them all
even
the
that,
time, I say, we had to go to the library to get, you have this at the tip of your finger. Use it to your advantage. We live in such a
exactly,
digital world right now. You have it so easy
exactly.
to use it. And I don't only want to touch base on reading and what we have from the outside, but I also definitely want to touch about what we have on the inside. Our spiritual gifts, our spirituality, our senses, everything that we have inside of us, that is just such a bigger part of who we are and what was stripped away
That's
from
right.
us. Because we were taught it was wrong. We were taught it was bad. Oh no, voodoo this, oh this, that. No, that's what's in us, So aside from our, learning on from the outer world, we also have to delve deep, inside too, to bring all of that back out, because it's in every single one of us still,
No, correct,
So
correct. And you know what's always interesting to me is that while some persons might try to run and avoid their African culture, their African culture does not run from them, because it
exactly.
still manifests. It manifests in their behavior without them even knowing.
Yep,
Excuse me, right? Like,
definitely.
I'll share this with you. Yeah, maybe it happens in your family also. In my family, special occasions, Christmas, New Year's, wherever the special occasion is, someone always pours some liquid on the ground in remembrance of a dearly departed ancestor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And some people just figure that, hey, this is just what we do. They figure we created this, not understanding that it
Mm-hmm.
has an origin.
Yep.
You see, there is a
Mm-hmm.
cultural continuity taking place.
Mm-hmm.
But
Definitely.
because we think we are far removed,
From it.
right, from
Yeah.
it, that what we are doing now is new.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? And
Yep.
it can go on so many different
So
other
many
levels.
different,
The
exactly.
way how we speak, the way how we express ourselves, our hand posture, everything. I
Yes.
mean, let me tell you something. As someone who went to Ghana, right?
Mm-hmm.
Going through the marketplace, going through the city and everything, there is no difference between a St. Martiner and a Ghanaian. The only time they realize that I was from St. Martin is when I started to speak. That was the only time. Other
Yeah.
than that, they just figure, hey, I'm an Ashanti, or I'm a Fulani, or whatever have you. You
Mm-hmm.
understand? But
Mm-hmm.
the mannerisms is the same.
Exactly.
It's the same. So it's one people. We never like something like one of my older brethren would have told me, we never gave up our right to be African. We never did that. We never came to the islands empty-handed. We came with something. As much as they tried to beat it out of us, we came
Yep,
with something. And
definitely.
all it did, it just evolved into something else because of our natural environment, because of our circumstances,
Mm-hmm.
but we didn't come empty-handed, you see. And that's something we
Exactly.
just have to come to grips with. We just have to come to grips with that, return to your source, and confront it,
Yeah.
embrace it, embrace it. But yeah, again, that's part of my rant. You understand?
Powerful.
and again, and
Definitely.
again, a little carried away. Sorry.
No, not at all. It has to be said, eh?
Yeah, man. Give thanks. Give thanks.
Has to
So,
be. Has to
what is
be.
on the calendar for the Samaritan Museum for the remainder of the year, if any? If any.
Oh, we have a lot of projects that we're looking forward to, but because
Okay.
we trying to work on the financing and the funding for it, I won't even speak of them anytime soon. But I hope I can come back on into you. Yeah,
Okay.
we got the funding, but
Okay.
one of them definitely, which I got a kind of a yes for that one, is to be working with the schools and some of the senior citizens
Oh, nice.
groups. Yes, so we will to be working on tours and different activities with them. So that's something that we're definitely looking forward to. But aside from just activities, we the whole point is for the museum to grow. So I don't know if you heard, but basically, a few years ago, and that's actually when I really came on board. The plan was there was a whole MOU, and a task force was created to create a new museum together with CMARC, which is J. Havaser,
Oh, yes. Yes.
so
Yes.
that's Archaeological Foundation, and the library. So we were moving full speed ahead. We had some amazing plans, some amazing proposals. We reached quite far
Okay.
in developing this National Heritage Center, which would consist of the museum, CMARC, and the library at the location where the library is currently located.
Mm,
Unfortunately, things didn't work out. So the library wanted their own space. So they're continuing with their project. But CMARC and the museum are now left to find a new space because both of us are currently renting very small spaces. So that's the goal, to still create that space, but also to have the National Archives established. And hopefully that whichever space that we have can also accommodate the Samaritan Archives. So that's what we're, of course, not this year, but that's something that we really hope to solidify and build on. We've been having conversations, but nothing confirmed, nothing solid yet. But that's really what that's our goal, that's our purpose, that's our vision, that's our plan, and we really would love to see it centralized, in Phillipsburg, that everybody can reach it, that tourists can reach it, students can reach it, but that it's not just a museum and not just an archaeological foundation, but that it's a village, really a village that with a park, with a playground, with all amenities, food, restaurants, everything, that it would have aulas, that, that's what we had in mind for that space. And we still want to keep that and really build on it, to make it that community space that St. Martin needs, for education, for knowledge, for history, for culture, for healing, so that's really, really what we're aiming for, to have this space developed. And hopefully I hope that I'm manifesting it now, but that
definitely.
let it be, that's where we're going, because our people need it, our children need it, our elders need it, that a place that our elders can actually feel free to come and sit down and talk. We have this concept of a room that our elders can just actually come and sit down and talk, and we can record them, and we can have, that their
Mm.
stories will be told, and we can have the children come and listen, or whoever wants to come and listen, because there's so many things that we want to incorporate in this space. So it's not just a museum, it's not just a center, but it's a village,
Mm.
so, as we say, it takes a village, and I really want us to bring that back and understand that, because not
Okay.
everyone gets it from at home. That's how it we notice. Not everyone gets it at home, but that our children, our people can find a safe space where they can come, grow, learn, heal, especially
Yeah.
heal, where can you go in St. Martin other than Emilia Wilson, or up in the hills if you're a hiker, and find green space? Where?
Well, yeah.
And we underestimate the power of that. We underestimate the importance of it for our people. As you say, you see so many people walking around. Where can they just go and take a deep breath, ground,
Mm.
and come back.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So we underestimate how important it is. But also in a central space, because of course tourism is important, but let's touch on cultural tourism. So many people come here. A man came in here to the museum once. He said, how many jewelry stores can one street have? This is what the tourists are saying. So we have to understand that tourists want to see more. Tourists actually want to see the island. Tourists want to experience the island. They want to come. They like, where can we go hiking? What can we see that is of the island?
Mm.
Where is St. Martin? They want to see it. So we have to showcase it. We have to build on that, because people are now more looking for that cultural tourism, that identity, that, hey, you know what? We don't want to go to each, especially if you're on a cruise, you go to each island. And because I've been on cruises, I've seen it myself. And every port you go, it's almost the same,
No, no, it's true. Yes, correct.
practically the same. So what are we offering that's new, that's fresh, that's cultural, that's St. Martin to
Yes.
people coming in? So it's there's so many aspects to it, but that's it. That's where we hope to go, hope to develop on, and hope to build on. So
Okay. Give thanks. Give thanks. Do you guys have a website, Facebook,
we do
Insta?
have a website. We do have Facebook, St. Martin National Heritage Foundation. Sorry, I'm bad at Facebook. I'm bad at Instagram. I'm bad at social media, but it's all there. It's
Okay.
all there, definitely. But I would
Okay.
definitely ask, for persons, because of course I'm bad at social media, to take it and to share it, because in the future that's where we're going to be posting. That's where, that's our aim, to
Okay.
especially build on our digital presence. Yeah, so we're
Okay.
also working on, I don't know if you've heard, our Aruba. They've done a lot of work when it comes to our collections, our digital collections, or their digital collections, and getting them online for people to see. So we're
Okay.
working with them to get our collections that they have, and even our collections, to get them online. So that's something we're building on now as well. So all of that information will come via the website, and we'll be posting all of that soon. So it's a lot of work,
Exciting though.
definitely.
It is exciting.
Definitely.
It is exciting. And do
Definitely.
you have do you have any, let's say, maybe special programs for youngsters, whether it is a course on St. Martin history? I don't know. You have anything like that?
So no, we don't have any special courses, but like I told you, the programs, because what we did a few years ago was Blast from the Past, where we brought back a
Oh,
lot of the old time activities, so like the crocheting, the nail boarding. We even did tart baking. So now we're working on the Johnny cakes. We did the cassava bread. So
oh,
those different things that we want to continue on. Of course, financing is
yes.
something again. So that's hopefully something that we're going to continue building on, coming soon, once
Okay.
financing is approved, that we can really show, especially our young people, the different things we did. Hey, you don't always have to go and be on a tablet or a phone. Hey, guess what? Pick up a crochet needle and let's crochet. Let's
Learn
do
a skill. Yeah, learn a skill.
handiwork, handicraft, you know,
Yes.
had
Yes.
handicraft in school, but you would be surprised, many of these schools do not have handicraft anymore. So that's why children are so prone to get into everything else instead of, hey, guess what? And we underestimate how much that helps. We talk about ADHD and all these things, but that helps children with their concentration and with their attention spans and all those different types of things. So these are a lot of we're hoping now to get a lot of these things back on track.
Okay, excellent,
And
excellent.
also going
Well,
into the schools and talking about different topics. So, and we're trying to collaborate with as many persons as well who are also out there doing different things. So those are things that we're looking forward to. So I won't talk anything until it's solid, but yes, we do
of
have
course.
some things that we hope to collaborate with a lot of different groups moving forward.
Okay, okay. Well, thank you for that, Amaris. We're going on 2 hours, eh? So you see, I did tell you, eh? And as
Yes, you
always,
did.
and as I always say, the aim is 60 minutes, but the
Uh-huh.
conversation can get so good we can run over.
Yes, you
Okay,
did. Yes.
and you have provided us with a wealth of insight,
All
and
right.
I am hoping that persons will, as soon as this podcast is over, run over quickly to visit your Facebook and Instagram page, like it and share it, of course, and
Share
maybe,
it. Yes.
inquire,
Yes,
ask some questions
definitely.
on how they can get involved, to support
Definitely.
this noble effort. So
Definitely.
we're coming on to the end of it, right? I do want to thank you and of course Mila Duncan for your presence and your insights and your time. And I think we're going to need a follow-up. I
Awesome.
think we are going to need a follow-up because I
Okay.
see how passionate you all became on the question of education and how it
Um,
intersects with culture, and of course identity. I saw that. So we'll
Definitely.
have to build a podcast around those critical themes. But before we wrap up, would you like to offer any closing remarks?
No, I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much. So much. I really appreciate you having us. It was an absolute pleasure. And I know you know how I feel about being on camera, but
I
we did
couldn't
it.
tell. I could not tell.
We did it. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you having us and helping us get the word out there. So it's so necessary. And thank you to everyone who's listening, for the comments, for the questions. Amazing. And come out, support, and not only support, help us tell your story. So it's not,
Mm.
as I said, the museum doesn't belong to anybody. It's our museum. So if you feel you have something that you want to tell, we may not be able to do it, 1 to 3, because of course we're limited with staff, but hey, let's see how we can get it done. Or if you want to bring something, we have people who want to donate items, but that's why we really need a new and a bigger space. Not only people wanting to donate items, but the whole repatriation of our items that are abroad. um,
Ooh.
and that's a different topic.
Amaris, time out. Time.
Time
Listen,
up,
we ain't
time
going
up,
there.
time up. So back to it.
That's part two. That's going to
That's
be part
part
two.
two. That's part two. But help us to tell our story. Tis we story. It is really we story. So let's tell it to the best, like only we can. Nobody
That's
can
right.
tell our story for us. We have to tell it. So yeah,
That's
that's
right.
it. Yes.
That's right. That's right. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank
Again,
you.
I really enjoyed this conversation. And
Awesome.
yes, we are
So did
going to
I.
have a part two. We are going to plan it, we're going to plan it and then have you and Solange Ludmila back on to
Awesome.
continue this conversation because the more we talk about it, and you know what, I have to mention this. I have to highlight the awesome work that Fabian Badiger does with Culture Time.
Mm-hmm.
I have to highlight what Suja Rev does with Conscious Lyrics. And there
Yes.
are a few others, but it just
Yeah.
at scales right
Many.
now.
Yes.
And I just have to highlight what they do in preserving and documenting our story for the next.
Definitely.
Of course, the Lasana Schools, of course, the Jose Lake Junior, which is I consider him my mentor, in so many different things.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to give them their flowers and their recognition for all that they
Exactly.
do, you know.
Definitely.
Um,
And it's so important
so
for us to also teach our children who they are.
that's right.
Understand?
That's right.
So, yeah,
That's right. That's right.
definitely.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that this brings us to, I don't want to say the end, but we are going to adjourn this
Adjourn.
podcast. We are going to adjourn this particular topic because we have Amaris and of course Ludmila Duncan with us again to continue this conversation, because she said something there about repatriation, returning our items, and that is anybody that knows me knows that that's a very, very sensitive topic. It's very, very close to my heart, you know.
Yeah.
So we definitely gonna have them back. Just remember next, I can't even say next Sunday, this coming Sunday, Sunday, August 4th, I'll be having Mr. Renate Bryson of the Pros for Legal Foundation, and we are going to be talking about combating vote selling, because
Ooh.
we know elections is coming up, and there's always, you know, stories and discussions about vote selling. So we want to have, you know, open dialogue about that. And remember, if you are in search of a mindfulness coach, an anger management coach, a yoga instructor, please do not hesitate to reach out to Mindful Elevation Caribbean, and you know, send Dr. Hansa a message, let her know what's on your mind, and see how she can support your goals, and of course helping you to help yourself in the process. You can find her Facebook page at Mindful Elevation Caribbean, as well as on Instagram, mindful.elevation.caribbean. So I will leave you in the words of the most honorable, right, and excellent Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Up, ye mighty race, you can accomplish what you will. One God, one aim, one destiny. Take care and